I just want to give a quick review on basically how to clean an engine. If you look at the video I just posted, it was of this engine really dirty. Like there's grease and oil everywhere. The easy way to clean an engine, and I don't care what anyone says, you got to disconnect your negative battery cable. You just have to do that. Some people don't do that. You're going to get check engine lights. You could potentially fry the computer. You just want to do that. You want to take off, if you notice in the video that I had posted, you see it just dirt that would come off with just water. You want to take that off. And right here I got this little, this thing works perfect. I got this from Harbor Freight with a 25% discount, and it's like 1,500 pound pressure or something like that. This is perfect for that. It's not steam, it's not hot, and I don't even suggest using steam or hot for the simple fact that that causes problems. The steam gets into areas and never gets out of there. You could get yourself one of these for like I said, like 60-65 bucks from Harbor Freight. It's real nice. I like it. They had a model before that did not have that brass fitting, but it used to be plastic, but now they're making it with the brass fitting. And so first you want to disconnect the battery. That's the first and foremost. Secondly, like intake, you don't want to get anything into the intake, because you could potentially get water into there. But in this case, I'm not really concerned about that right now, because but if there's like an inlet on this engine, some engines they have it where the inlet, they'll have it where you could have water get into the air filter. You definitely don't want to do that. You don't want water coming onto the intake, because if you get water in there, it'll hydrolock, and you can't compress the water, and you could bust the crank rod. But this engine's going to be sitting here for like a day or two, so I mean that would be a typical way to clean an engine. And I know a lot of you want to just clean your engine and go about your day, but this would be the best choice to do when you want to clean an engine, is to just spray it down with the that, and then get most of the stuff that's going to come off with just the water. And then what you want to do is get some engine degreaser, spray about half the bottle, especially in the areas that you see most grease and oil and everything. That's where you want to get mostly. And you want to try to avoid areas like this, or like is this the fuse box? The fuse box. If you want, you could cover those areas with like I would just use you could just use some old rags or whatever to wrap around things like the fuse box and maybe the engine computer and stuff like that. You don't want to wet the engine computer if the engine computer is in your bay here, in the engine bay, and like the electronic, the high spark. So you just basically want to do that. But because we disconnected that, it's not going to cause a problem right now. Spray it down, take off most of the heavy stuff. Spray about half the bottle, especially in the areas where it's heavy grease and oil. Spray it down. And where it's really gunked up, you could get a rag and wipe it while it's still on there. Wipe it down, or a brush and scrub on the brush. It'll be a little bit wet once you clean off the heavier stuff, and then you spray it, and it'll mix in with the water, and it'll mix in. And then like this right here, it's just that color. You want to give it about 4 or 5 minutes. I wouldn't have it in the sun at all. I wouldn't want to let it dry on it. So just make sure, however long you're doing it, don't let it dry on the engine. Just make sure it's like this, where it's kind of still moist a little bit, and maybe 5 minutes at the most. Let it sit. Spray it down. Spray it all down with your pressure washer. The areas that are heavier with dirt and grime, this is adjustable. It opens up, and then it gets narrow. So get into the areas that are really hard to clean, and spray those areas. And then if you want, you can come in with a brush in the areas that are really bad, and then and let that drip for about 5 minutes, Once that drips for about 5 minutes, if it's still really, really dirty, like in this case, then we'll spray the rest of the half of the bottle, especially, like I said, in the areas that are really, really bad. And then let it sit for another 5 minutes after you spray the other half of the bottle. And then come in here again, spray the heaviest areas first, because it's going to spray up and land on everything, and then go over the top of it, back and forth, working it from top to bottom. And then you just want to wash everything away. And then after that, like if you're going to drive it the next day or something, what you want to do is you want to let it sit for like probably half an hour, just let everything come off. And then in my opinion, this is a necessity. Air compressor. This is, I wouldn't even do this, clean the engine, unless I had an air compressor. And I do have an air compressor. And you want to turn it on, and all the little areas where you think can be problems, spray. Anything that's built up, like right here, you want to spray, or you want to blow air. It's just going to go everywhere. You want to start from the top. You want to start at the areas that have the wires. You want to spray or use air up in here, everything that's electrical, up in here, everywhere that's electrical. You want to start there, and you want to spray it off, and it's gonna jump out and fall into areas. And then you want to get the areas that it would build up, like in case in these areas, and then you could actually spray it another time, one more time, just to make sure that you got everything off of it. And then do the same thing, let it sit for 5, 10, 20 minutes, and then spray it again with this, with the air, to get all the air, all the water out. But in this case, I'm going to do that, and it's going to sit overnight, and then hopefully everything is going to be all dried out and everything. And you just want to make sure everything's dry before you reconnect that battery, because you reconnect that battery and you have water in between here, and it gives you a short. It could potentially fry one of the computer drivers or something like that, and you don't want to do that. So I mean, you can already, this I gotta go one more time with it, but you can see, look at this, it looks brand new. It's nice and shiny, looks like brand new. I gotta come in here one more time, spray it down, and then once I start taking this timing belt, you're gonna see that the area I have to work with is really nice. And it makes the world of a difference, because you can't even find the nut and the bolt because it's so corroded, or it's so gumped up with just crud. It's nasty, and that crud, it falls into those areas that you're not going to be able to get it out of. It's just a pain in the ass. I like to work in an environment where it's nice and clean, and you can see every nut and every bolt. And if you get grime and grease in between the threads on a bolt while you're trying to start it, it could crack. It could crack what it's going into, because it's just corroded, or I mean, it's just baked. It just has got all that dirt, and you're trying to put them. I've seen people do it 100 times. They got the bolts, and they're just filled with grime, and they stick them back in and turn it, and then they go in crooked, and then it's a half-ass job. It's just a half-ass job. And like I said, I kind of feel sorry for the guys that are unable to do this. Like in a dealership, they just bring it to you, and they say, here, fix it, and you're not going to go out of your way, because you're not going to get paid extra if you're making if you're getting paid by the job instead of by the hour. You're not going to take that extra time to do it. But you can see the world of the difference that it makes, man. This thing's just it's going to gleam. It's going to be nice. I'm going to come in here. I'll be able to see every little single drop of oil leak. It's just, I suggest you guys do this stuff, man. Do it. Clean your engine. Clean your engine. It's a little dangerous, but if you follow my procedure, you disconnect the negative battery cable. You make sure you don't get any water into the intake. You make sure you don't get any water into the engine computer if it's in the engine bay. Cover that up if you have to. Let it sit for a while. Honestly, I probably wouldn't even do it unless you're going to let the car sit for at least 2 days, unless you have air to blow it out. I think this is a necessity. But you could get one of these for $50 at Harbor Freight, air compressor nowadays, you know. So, all right, comment, rate, subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Get yourself a napkin and give it the test. Nice white napkin. A little bit. You gotta really scrub though to get, I mean, it still a little bit. Nothing like it was before though. You got a nice white spot right there. See, this stuff you can't even rub off. I mean, this stuff ain't coming off. All this other stuff, it's almost like just permanently there almost. But the thing is, you're not going to have that heavy buildup on your fingers that's going to prevent you from starting nuts, taking nuts out, losing nuts, unable to see nuts and bolts. So I think the results are good though. Nice and clean. Look at that. Clean. I like the results. I can work on this. I didn't even want to touch the engine before. I didn't even want to get my hands, I mean, I just didn't. And you notice a lot of things when the engine's clean and stuff. You can see things like, for example, there's nothing in here, you know, or how dirty the fluids are, or that this is starting to corrode, you know what I mean? It's just, you see it's starting to corrode. You just see those things when the engine's clean. You start seeing things like broken vacuum lines, and you see that stuff because it's not all corroded. I would definitely suggest doing this. For you guys out there that really love your vehicles, do it once a month. For you other people out there that just don't give a shit about your vehicle, do it every 3 to 6 months, or have somebody do it. So, but it's real important that you don't get the water into anything while your battery's connected, or else you can end up damaging something. All right, that's the end of how to clean the engine.